Parker offensive line, I'm looking at three guys that had an impact in regards to significant playing time out the door, led by Marquis Hayes. A couple Power 5 transfers come in, as well as a couple 4-stars.
Yeah, so offensive line, I'm actually not convinced there's going to be a whole lot of turnover there. I think you're going to see much the same offensive line that you saw in 2021. Obviously, you have to replace, though, Marquis Hayes, the left guard, who's since departed for the NFL, and Tyrese Robinson, the guard turned right tackle, who's also heading for greener professional pastures. Now, the Sooners brought in McCade Mettauer, the 3-year starter from out of Cal at the guard position, via the transfer portal. And I would imagine he is an immediate plug-and-play replacement for Marquis Hayes at left guard. I think you can safely pencil McCade Mettauer into that starting role, because that's not a guy that you bring in as a depth piece, right? He started from the get-go as a true freshman. He's only played one game in his entire collegiate career that he didn't start in. And so that's a guy that was an immediate impact performer out there for the Golden Bears, and he comes to Oklahoma with much the same expectation on his shoulders that he's going to replace Marquis Hayes and be Oklahoma's starting left guard for the next 2 seasons. Now, when you look at right tackle, I think the easy thing to say is that Juanier Morris is going to be the one to replace Tyrese Robinson. And many will forget, Juanier Morris was actually a preseason All-Big 12 selection last year. He came from Oklahoma via the portal after 2 seasons at Tennessee. Like Mettauer, he had been a starter from the get-go as a true freshman with the Volunteers. He was a former 5-star recruit in the class of 2019, and then didn't start a game for Oklahoma the entirety of the 2021 season. There were a lot of reasons for that. He wasn't in prime physical shape when he showed up to campus. And to be quite honest, Tyrese Robinson went and won that job. Anton Harrison won the job at left tackle. Juanier Morris just got flat beat out. Now, as you look to 2022, Morris is the guy that's the most experienced. And he saw some action for Oklahoma in 2021 in relief of Robinson. I believe it was the Texas game where Robinson had to miss some time due to an injury, and you saw Morris get some substantial snaps there. But when you look at his past at Tennessee and the fact that he's had to go up against SEC defensive linemen before and has held his own, you kind of start to get the impression that 2021 was a blip on the radar, and that it's a matter of when, not if, he really comes into his own as an offensive lineman. And this is a guy that's, he's been touted as a potential future NFL first rounder ever since he was in high school. So the potential is there. It's just a matter of unlocking it. And so to me, I think Juanier Morris moves into that role at right tackle in 2022, and your starting offensive line consists of Anton Harrison at left tackle, McCade Mettauer at left guard, Andrew Rame at center, Chris Murray reprises his role as right guard, and then you have Juanier Morris at right tackle. That's what it looks like to me. Guys that I'm interested to see whether they can make a push for playing time include true freshman Jake Taylor out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Bishop Gorman High School, the same high school that produced DeMarco Murray. He's a top 150 guy in the 24/7 Sports composite in the class of 2022. And that is a guy that will step on campus and immediately be ready to compete at the Power 5 level. Again, I don't know that he starts. I don't know that he plays in any substantial capacity as a true freshman, but that's a guy that down the line, as soon as 2023, you can expect to be in the starting lineup. And I'm curious to see whether he pushes his elders in that offensive line room and at least makes his way onto the 2 deep as a true freshman. Jacob Sexton, the local kid out of Edmond Deer Creek High School, another 4-star addition in the 2022 cycle. Sexton's a guy that I would say probably needs a year. He's one of those guys that he's certainly strong enough. He's certainly physical enough, but I think as of last check, he was tipping the scales at about 285 pounds, I believe. So I think he needs to add a little bit of weight and just adjust to the speed of the collegiate game before he's ready to factor into the picture for Oklahoma. But much like Taylor, Sexton is a guy that I look at long-term as a guy that's going to be an impact performer on that offensive line for Oklahoma. But regarding the 2022 season, I think what you're going to see is that lineup that I mentioned: Harrison, Mettauer, Rame, Murray, and Morris, because all of those guys have experience. All of them have proven that they're capable of getting in the trenches against Power 5 opponents. and holding their own. And that, I think, is the lineup that Bill Bedenbaugh's probably going to feel most confident in initially. And maybe you see the likes of a Savion Byrd or an Aaron Parks or a Marcus Alexander or even a Bray Walker, for instance, make a push and supplant one of those 5 guys to be a starter at offensive lineman. I don't see it. To me, it's pretty clear what the picture is going to be. Robert Konzel is another guy that saw some pretty significant action at center in 2021 in a rotational role with Andrew Rames. So maybe there's a battle to be had there. That's where my money is, though, on how the Sooners line up in the trenches come 2022. Harrison, Mettauer, Rame, Chris Murray, Juanier Morris.
Love the offensive line breakdown, and especially for those of us who don't track OU football on a daily basis, but keep up with the major personnel shifts across the country. Yes, Juanier Morris is a former 5-star and a guy that played substantial time at Tennessee. Most of us were thinking, why is this guy not on the field? He's not hurt. He was supposed to be an impact player there in 2021.